Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Q3 market update from the Swiss office of Tiger Recruitment. I'm Jane, and I head up the office here in Zurich, as well as managing the permanent recruitment desk, where I work across a number of industries with a strong focus across finance, legal, and private wealth, particularly family offices.
And I'm Sarah. I lead our temporary and contract divisions, which also includes the employer of record services across Switzerland, France, Spain, and Germany. So we'll be covering today kind of trends that we've seen in Q2, expectations going forwards, and what this means for both our clients and our candidates.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. So let's start with a general market overview. From my perspective, I think the Swiss market in Q2 presented quite a mixed picture. Overall, employment did grow, but it was at a very slow rate. So I don't think we really felt it. For Tiger and particularly the permanent recruitment, the pipeline of roles that we've had has been as strong as we've ever seen it, both in terms of numbers and quality, which is very encouraging. We've been engaged in some really good opportunities, particularly across private equity, wealth management, and family offices. That said, the hiring process seems to have moved very slowly, with clients often taking a week or more between interview stages. But what I found particularly interesting was that despite this, we saw very few candidates dropping out of processes due to other offers, which suggests to me that opportunities elsewhere in the market were also progressing at a slower pace. Maybe it was a reflection of broader geopolitical uncertainties and a slight sense of caution in the market that resulted in a slowdown. Because then, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, without any obvious reason, the momentum suddenly shifted and things picked up significantly. More interviews were being scheduled, and thankfully, multiple offers have since been extended. Since then, and my final reflection of the market at this point is that in the last week, we've also seen a rise in the number of new inquiries coming into the business, spanning a wide range of industries and roles, again, suggesting that there is still an interest in hiring, that the market is holding up as we go into the core holiday weeks of the summer. But I seem to have covered a lot of information there, Sarah. So I thought I'd better let you have a chance and see how you found things, particularly with the client trends from your side.
Yeah, well, on the temp side, we've seen real improvement. Q2 did bring a steady rise in temp and actually contract, with one standout trend being the increase in demand for our employee of record services. So through this service, we've supported teams expanding across Switzerland, France, Spain, and Germany using our EOR model and partners. And this has allowed them to bring on talent without setting up a local entity. So it's really perfect for a trial market, for flexible resourcing, and also kind of for any urgent projects that come up. This is also there's also been a rise in request for kind of more advisory style supports from our clients. So it's really not uncommon now to have a call at the beginning of the process, not only to discuss the role and what the role includes, but also to discuss salary benchmarking, onboarding plans, and questions about benefit packages, specifically kind of within Switzerland. Another trend that continued in Q2 was the growing openness for flexible workforce models. Obviously, I'm more on the temp contract side, so I've kind of seen it on interim, on temp to perm solutions. A good example of this is a role that I'm working on right now. This is a 50% team assistant position. The company knows that they'll need someone long term, but the need is immediate, and the internal approval process is just taking too long to kind of match their need. So instead of waiting for the process to kind of the approval to kind of come for the kind of the headcount, we're looking for a strong temp to perm candidate, someone who can just come in, get up to speed, and kind of give that immediate help. And it's a real practical workaround to keep things moving. It just gives both sides, on top of all of that, a chance to see if it's going to be a good fit long term for that candidate. From a candidate side of things, what have you noticed, Jane? What have your observations been? Have you noticed, any roles in particular that are in demand at the moment? Are there any pitfalls with those roles that candidates can kind of address when they're applying for these types of roles?
Yeah, so I'd probably say that the market right now is active but highly selective. And what I mean by that is our core area, which is business support, continues to see Majority of open roles with executive assistants, office managers, PAs, etc., being the most popular roles. However, clients are being very specific about the candidate profiles they're willing to consider. And I think because things have been relatively slow, roles are being advertised for a longer period of time and therefore attracting a higher volume of applications, giving clients the opportunity to be particularly selective. When you have so many strong applicants, hiring decisions are often based not just on ability, but they are very specific factors like industry knowledge or relevant experience or language skills, even availability. So they can come down to making those decisions. So for candidates, I think it just means that presentation and precision are absolute key when looking at roles. And I would recommend the following tips, being things like tailor your CV to each role. A generic application doesn't stand out. It will look like that. It's much better if you're able to highlight specific strengths for each position that you're applying for. Be clear about required permit statuses, salary expectations, notice periods, that kind of thing. Update your LinkedIn profile. Clients definitely look at people's LinkedIn profiles as part of the process. So make sure it matches your CV and also make sure it looks professional, particularly things like the photographs. And finally, show motivation by including a brief summary in your application explaining why you're interested in that particular role. So it doesn't look as if you've just kind of done a block send to a number of different positions. And I think it's the candidates who are proactive, clear, well prepared. They're the ones at the moment who are moving through the process the fastest.
Yeah, and I'm actually seeing that real shift in what clients are prioritising on the temp to perm side as well. So while technical skills are obviously still important, there's much more emphasis now on qualities like emotional intelligence, adaptability, the ability to be able to communicate across teams and functions and different markets as well. So it's really an indication that clients are starting to look a little bit more strategic with their planning and their hiring, maybe thinking a little bit more about long term. And want people who can kind of embed into their business and grow and stay with it long term.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned emotional intelligence then, and that you're seeing that it's becoming an important part of the hiring process, as our marketing department currently preparing a report from our recent roundtable event, which had the topic hiring for emotional intelligence without bias. It was a very successful event. It was a good discussion. The report will be released in early August, and there is actually a pre-order link that's available in the comments below here. But the discussion essentially centered around the practical strategies for assessing emotional intelligence during the hiring process. And some of the key themes that are covered in the report is avoiding unconscious bias, ensuring consistency across interviewers, designing structured and objective questions, and also separating likability from suitability. So I think it will be a really interesting report and something that anybody who's interested in this area should definitely put a request in for.
Yeah, for sure. And going back to a comment earlier about how clients are beginning to ask kind of for extra kind of broader HR topic advice on those. One tool that we use that's very useful is our annual salary and benefits survey. Yep. This has been released next week. So this is open to all professionals in Switzerland. So if you found it difficult benchmarking your own salary or you're hiring and you're struggling with that, it's a really good tool to use. So it's going to be released next week. Just keep an eye on LinkedIn for the link to participate in that.
Yeah, excellent. I know the salary review always proves to be, I think, one of our most popular reports that we produce each year. So it'd be great if lots of people are able to participate in the survey from next week, so we have as much data to use as possible in order to create a full and accurate picture of the market. But as a summary, thank you, Sarah, for the update this afternoon. I think overall we can say that we're seeing slow but steady momentum in the Swiss recruitment market, both on the permanent and temporary side. I think the result of this from a candidate perspective is you need to be selective and focused in what you're applying for and have a really strong approach to the market.
Yeah, agreed. And thank you everyone for joining us. And don't forget to take a look at the roundtable pre-order link below. And just next week, keep an eye out for the salary survey. Thanks, Jane.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.